Hey everyone, today we just wanted to make a short video documenting on why the new huge fungi trees, or whatever they're called, are kind of busted in multiple ways, some positive, some negative. My guess is that the developers had to rush the process of bringing the first Nether update beta out, because they were obviously having to catch up to Java Edition snapshots. But obviously this is just a beta, so it's nothing too big, and of course these bugs can all be fixed before it actually releases. Alright, so these are the huge fungi trees, and as you may know, they generate naturally in respectively the warped forest and the crimson forest. But they also grow into huge variants from their small variants, which is the crimson fungus and the warp fungus. I believe these are called huge fungi. So there are the warped and crimson fungi. And as you may know, you can just place one down, bone meal it, and yeah, it grows. And there's nothing too much unexpected about that, except what I'll get into later. And same with the blue one, it just grows, and yeah. Alright, so if it wasn't obvious already, these fungi delete blocks, and in fact they delete a lot of them. As you can see, all of that bedrock, it's all gone, and that is only one of the ways in it is broken. Of course, as a technical player, I see this as a positive change, that you can use this to break bedrock, because some of the bedrock breaking methods that exist can be harder and stuff, but that's not the most important part here, because that same behavior also prevents us from properly farming them. So as you can see, I have conducted several tests of growing these huge fungi, and as you may be able to notice, some of the huge fungi have enlarged stems. So that's what it's called. It's the stem, because they're sort of fungi, you know, mushrooms and stuff, although this kind of looks like logs and it behaves like wood. Well, whatever. I'll just call it a stem. As you can see, the base of the stem can get larger. And if you were to farm this huge fungi, you would of course have a dispenser. And guess what? When the dispenser actually dispenses onto the fungus, of course, sometimes, as you may have expected from what we see before, it can actually delete the dispenser, which is not good. There we go. As you can see, it just got completely obliterated out of existence. The clock is still there, but the dispenser is gone. So that means it's pretty much impossible to farm them. Since we can't use the dispenser directly at the same height as the fungus, I had another idea. What if we just use the mechanic that we can actually just bone meal the nylium in order to get fungus on there? And this idea was viable at first, but there are several issues with it actually. Oh, and if it wasn't clear, I was thinking of swapping the actions that the player does. So instead of the player placing the quote-unquote sapling, he would perform the bone mealing action. And yeah, that would basically be the roles swapped around in comparison to tree farms. But unfortunately, with that idea, there was another issue I ran into, which is of course that you don't always get fungi, and it's pretty much impossible to differentiate from getting any of the funguses, or fungi should say, or the nether sprouts, or even the crimson or warped roots. So yeah, that idea was scrapped as well. And lastly, because the generation of the huge fungi just deletes through everything, you can't use blocks to limit the height because they will just get deleted. As you can see, that obsidian is just gone, so that means you unfortunately would have to deal with absolutely massive trees. I believe I had one that was about 27 blocks high. Was it that one? 30, that was 26 blocks high, but which is pretty insane. And yeah, as you can see, some pretty tall ones grow indeed, and unfortunately you cannot limit the height. And this issue seems to be persistent for both the warped and the crimson. There also is another interesting thing you can do with the crimson fungus and the warp fungus, and that is delete the gateway blocks, and only the gateway blocks, not any of the bedrock. And that is pretty much the same with normal mushrooms. They can do that as well. Normal giant mushrooms, I mean, of course. But of course, it may need some time. But I don't need to clear any of the stuff that is there, luckily. Because, yeah, for some reason. Let's just see if we can get that to work. Oh, is it? Yeah. Got replaced by a shroomlight. And yeah, let's just clear it around there for a second. And it looks like all the bedrock is intact. And you can indeed make a wither killer out of this or whatever else you want. So yeah, you can use that. However, placing it directly underneath one or any of the bedrock blocks in the gateway will of course also potentially delete the bedrock blocks and make this not viable for a wither cage anymore. Oh, not wither cage, wither killer. You can't use these for wither cages because they suffocate and die. And you currently cannot remove any of the middle bedrock blocks without some sort of removing all of these underneath and then placing one bedrock down that you got from a bedrock farm. So that, I guess, is also one interesting use of the fungi, but I just hope that they do indeed fix the dispenser deleting. Oh, and pretty much all other blocks too. If you try to have pistons in the proximity, it will get deleted. And that is quite unfortunate, because I would like to farm these, but you just can't at the moment. You probably could by having flying machines out of range, but there is no point trying to develop something if it's unintended behavior anyway, and that they're going to repair this broken behavior soon, hopefully. Question mark. On a side note, you also cannot bone meal weeping vines with a dispenser. So that doesn't work that dispenser for some reason, it doesn't grow at all. However, with player input it works very fine. So yeah, that is sort of related because those grow on the fungi trees. And if you're wondering, yes, of course I tried to make a zero-tick weeping vine farm. However, you cannot do that because weeping vines are insta-ticked. That means they process if there is still a living condition in the same tick and not in the next tick. So that means you cannot use any zero-tick mechanics on them because they just instantly break. It is also demonstrated by the fact that if you break the top one, it doesn't break gradually, but it all breaks instantly. Just like normal vines, by the way. Alright, that about does it for the Nether update beta stuff. I think I tried farming everything that could be farmed, except for mobs, because I really suck at mob farms, and you probably know that. Well, outside of redstone-based mob farms, like the zombified piglin farm, now what it's called, or the creeper farm, which is really a basic mob farm. But yeah, advanced mob farm and stuff I'm not really that good at. So if you want to see a soul sand, valley, gas, and skeleton, or whatever farm, I'm probably not the guy you're looking for. So yeah, we'll probably be returning to stable release because I really need to play some exploit before all of the things that get patched in 1.16 are in the stable release, because we still want a lot of obsidian from our obsidian farm, because apparently there's a bug in 1.16 that they're most likely not going to fix soon that prevents obsidian farms from working, and many other things. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you do think this is interesting, because I keep interesting content like this coming on a regular basis. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye!